There's something so special and raw about young love. High school crushes, your first kiss, that intoxicating feeling of something new, something pure. It's tender, kind, and full of possibility. Your first love isn't just a fleeting romance, it shapes who you are. It teaches you what you value in others, how to open your heart, and most importantly, how to love yourself. Whether your first love ended in heartbreak, remained unrequited, or became your happily ever after, there's something undeniably nostalgic about looking back at the person who first made your heart race. That moment in time, so innocent, so thrilling, becomes a core memory, one that never truly fades. Young love is fleeting, vulnerable, a moment in life before the weight of the world settles on your shoulders, before you fully understand the harshness of reality, before you grow older, more guarded, maybe even a little bitter. It's a kind of magic, one that just can't be recaptured. For two Georgia teenagers, that magic should have lasted a lifetime, but sadly, they would never walk across the stage at graduation, never have their last prom, never make those final high school memories. Their love story was cut short, and so were their lives. Like so many cases we cover, it feels as though they were simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. One moment, they were teenagers and love, wrapped in the warmth of youth. Tonight we take you behind the headlines to tell the horrific story of Natalie and Carter, two young lives full of promise, stolen in an instant. Their only crime? Falling in love. It's the summer of 2016 in Roswell, Georgia. Nestled in the northern part of Fulton County, Roswell is one of the larger cities in the state. Just an hour outside of Atlanta, this thriving suburb has long been considered one of the best places in Georgia to live, boasting a perfect blend of small-town charm and big city convenience. Roswell is known for its top-rated schools, vibrant community, and abundance of green spaces, with its lush parks, access to the Chattahoochee River, as well as Vickery Creek Basin. Nature is always just a step away. It's the kind of place where families settle down, where neighbors know each other, and where life feels safe and comfortable. In fact, Roswell has been consistently ranked as one of the safest cities in Georgia, making it no surprise that families have been flocking here over the past decade. It's even been recognized nationally, named one of the best places to live in the entire country, according to Livability. I mean, what's not to love? But for three families, this once safe community will never feel the same again. A place where crime was rare would soon be shaken to its core, forever changed by an act of unthinkable violence. A stark reminder that no matter where you live, no matter how safe your neighborhood seems, danger can be lurking just along the shadows, or, in this case, in a parking lot. This is the story of Natalie Henderson and Carter Davis, two 17-year-olds who, by all accounts, were popular, well-liked, and kind-hearted. Both were on the cusp of their senior year, soaking in the long, warm summer nights, the kind that felt endless, where time seemed to stand still. They were young and in love, savoring their final weeks of freedom before the real world came rushing in. One last year of normalcy, one last year surrounded by friends, family, and the familiar walls of their high school. One last year of simply being kids. But for Natalie and Carter, there would be no senior year, no future, no happily ever after. Natalie was soaking up the final days of summer before starting her senior year at Roswell High School on King Road. Friends and family described her as funny, smart, and endlessly kind, someone who could light up a room and make friends with just about anybody. Her family remembers her as a free spirit, always bubbly and outgoing, radiating happiness and a genuine love for life. She was born on December 15th, 1998, to parents Suzanne and Tad Henderson, arriving 10 days earlier than expected. Her original due date was Christmas. Natalie carried a spirit of warmth, joy, and generosity, much like the holiday she was meant to be born on. She had a way of making people feel special, of spreading love and light wherever she went. Natalie was also a loving older sister to Rachel, who wasn't just her sibling, but her best friend. Family meant everything to Natalie, whether it was spending time with her parents, laughing with Rachel, or simply being present for the people she loved. She left such a lasting impact on her little sister that Rachel followed in her footsteps, joining color guard just like her. It was something they both came to love, a shared passion that bonded them even more. Natalie had a bold personality, a generous heart, and a passion for helping others. Since the age of 13, she had been volunteering with Companion Animal Connection and Animal Rescue, and she also worked as a lifeguard for Swim Atlanta. Beyond her studies, Natalie was deeply involved in the arts and extracurriculars. She was the leader of Roswell High's award-winning color guard, something she was incredibly passionate about. Her teammates were more than just friends, they were family. She was also a talented singer and guitarist, performing in the school's show choir and sharing her love of music wherever she could. But no matter how busy her schedule got, Natalie never lost sight of her academics. She loved learning, loved growing, and had her whole future ahead of her, a future that should have been filled with endless possibilities. Carter Davis, on the other hand, lived in Woodstock, Georgia, about 30 minutes from Roswell. Born on July 29, 1999, he was a rising senior at River Ridge High School on Arnold Mill Road in Cherokee County. He was the son of Jeremy and Michelle Davis and had a younger sister, Greta. Carter spent much of his childhood in Rapid City, South Dakota, where his mother was from. The family loved the outdoors, often hiking together in the Black Hills mountain range. Just before school started, Carter and his mom took a trip back to South Dakota for one last summer adventure. On their final hike, they came across a rock formation known as the Praying Hands, two granite spires standing side by side across a ravine, a symbol of faith, strength, and connection. It would later take on an even deeper meaning. Like Natalie, Carter was deeply family-oriented. He never missed an opportunity to remind his loved ones how much he cared, telling them, "I love you," multiple times a day. He was the kind of person who made people feel valued, always offering a kind word, a big smile, or a reassuring presence. Carter had a deep love for nature and wildlife, with a particular fondness for butterflies and dragonflies, creatures as free-spirited as he was. At 6 feet tall and 180 pounds, Carter was a strong athletic presence. He played football, soccer, but his true passion was lacrosse. He was a standout player at River Ridge High and had also played back in Rapid City, where his teammates affectionately nicknamed him Georgia. Coaches praised him for his natural talent, but more than that, Carter was known for being a selfless and dedicated teammate, someone who lifted up those around him, both on and off the field. He was excited about the possibility of playing lacrosse, possibly even getting a scholarship while in college. In addition to his athleticism, Carter was a dedicated student. He maintained a 3.8 GPA and was enrolled in 2 AP classes, heading into his senior year. His faith played a significant role in his life, and he was actively involved in his school's Fellowship of Christian Athletes program. Despite his size and strength, Carter was a gentle giant with a heart just as big. He radiated kindness effortlessly, drawing people in with his warmth and positivity. Even though Natalie and Carter attended different high schools about 10 miles apart, their paths still crossed. It's unclear exactly how they met, and while friends describe them as just friends, there were signs of something more. They weren't officially a couple, but they had been romantically involved leading up to their deaths. The two were enjoying each other's company the night of their deaths, kissing, flirting, caught up in the carefree excitement of summer and young love, when everything changed in an instant. It's the night of August 1st, 2016. Carter and Natalie had made plans to meet up, eager to enjoy each other's company before the start of their senior year. One last warm summer night, one last chance to be carefree. No homework, no college applications, no responsibilities. Just fun. Two teenagers living in the moment, soaking up the final hours of summer. Carter's school semester was set to begin the next day, so why not make the most of his last night of freedom, especially with a girl he liked. The two arranged to meet at the Kings Plaza Shopping Center on Woodstock Road in Roswell, Georgia around 3 a.m. It's unclear why they chose this specific location, but with Roswell High School just across the street, it was likely a convenient spot. Both Carter and Natalie arrived separately, meeting in the empty parking lot before deciding to drive behind the public supermarket attached to the shopping center. What happened next would change everything. Unbeknownst to them, someone was lurking in the shadows, watching, a peeping Tom, if you will, and that person would soon make a choice, one that would steal their young lives away. Natalie and Carter's lifeless bodies were discovered early that morning, around 6 a.m., by a delivery driver behind the supermarket. As investigators arrived on scene, one thing was immediately clear. Both had been fatally shot in the head, execution style. This wasn't a murder-suicide. It was a double homicide. But why? Who would want to take the lives of two teenagers with their entire futures ahead of them? Not just steal the lives they had planned, but end them before they even had the chance to truly live. And then there was something unsettling about the crime scene. It appeared as though the bodies had been deliberately positioned. Both teens were found lying between their vehicles. Carter was wearing only a pair of black shorts, while Natalie was completely nude. According to the autopsy report, her body had been posed in a sexually explicit fashion. Because of this, investigators performed a sexual assault evidence kit, but the results were inconclusive. There were no visible injuries to indicate sexual assault, yet the way they were found raised even more disturbing questions. Did the kids know their killer? Was this an act of revenge, a jealous ex, or was it something far more terrifying, completely random? One thing was certain. This crime sent shockwaves through the Roswell community. 2 teenagers murdered in cold blood, their bodies left behind a supermarket. The brutal nature of the crime left residents on edge, haunted by the chilling reality that a killer was out there, lurking in their own backyard. But the devastation stretched far beyond fear. 2 families lost their children, literally children, far too young to meet such a tragic end. And it wasn't just their families who were grieving. The entire Roswell High and River Ridge High communities were shattered. What should have been an exciting start to the school year turned into a nightmare. Instead of first day jitters and new beginnings, students were met with grief counselors in the hallways, reminders of an unbearable loss. How could they focus on a fresh start when their best friends, classmates, and teammates had been stolen away from them? Worst yet, their murderer was still out there.
We worked together, and I worked with her the day before what happened, and she always put everyone before you. Like, she did whatever she had to do to make you feel better, and she was always making you laugh, and she had the most beautiful smile you'd ever see on somebody, and it was so genuine. It's like she really meant it, because she didn't. She just cared about everybody all the time.
In the Fields Episcopal Church, which is where his mother then worked as an 8th grade teacher, hundreds showed up to honor Carter's young life, some of his teammates even wearing their jerseys to his funeral. Natalie's funeral service was held at Roswell Presbyterian Church off of Mimosa Boulevard. Because of her love for animals and impact she had with nonprofit, her family asked that donations in Natalie's name be sent to Companion Animal Connection, where she volunteered. However dark and nightmarish this time was for both families, Carter's loved ones believe they received a sign from him from the afterlife. On the day of his death, Carter's father, Jeremy, faced the heartbreaking task of explaining to Carter's little sister that her big brother was never coming home. To help her understand, he told her that Carter might send messages in unique ways through feathers, dragonflies, or something unexpected. As they talked, Jeremy paused and said, "I see him as a hawk or an eagle soaring high above." The next evening at Carter's vigil, a hawk appeared. Then, Michelle Davis, Carter's mother, experienced something just as extraordinary. As she stood in mourning, a yellow and black butterfly fluttered right beside her, reminding her of the times Carter would catch butterflies in his hands, and how strangely they never flew away. This butterfly lingered for over 10 minutes, as if refusing to leave her side. Was this just a coincidence, or was it Carter reaching out from beyond, letting his family know he was still with them? The community didn't have to wait long to learn who the accused killer might be. Just days after the horrific murders, an arrest was made. Surveillance footage played a crucial role in solving the case, linking the suspect to Carter and Natalie. Cameras captured the 2 teens entering the shopping center in the early hours of August 1st. Not long after, a man was seen entering the area on foot. Roughly 20 minutes later, that same man was caught on camera again, this time running from the crime scene. Additional footage from Publix located within the shopping plaza showed a silver SUV believed to be a Honda Passport or Isuzu Rodeo exiting via Georgia 92. The vehicle had several distinct features, including visible damage to the rear passenger side and mismatched front and rear wheels, making it easier for investigators to track down. Then came another breakthrough. Investigators discovered that Natalie's bank card had been used at Flash Foods gas station in Woodstock shortly after the murders, after Natalie was already dead. When police obtained surveillance footage from the gas station, they saw a man matching the suspect's scene at King Plaza using Natalie's debit card to buy gas for a silver SUV. Though the vehicle's license plate was missing, the damage on the SUV confirmed it was the same one seen in the shopping center footage. Roswell detectives launched a vehicle search and traced the SUV to Walter Hazelwood. Through further surveillance, both in person and on social media, officers tracked the vehicle to a home in Cobb County where the suspect's girlfriend allegedly lived. Later, the suspect drove to a quick trip on Woodstock Road in Cobb County, where police made their move. The man, later identified as 20-year-old Jeffrey Hazelwood, the grandson of the person who the vehicle was registered to, was found pacing shirtless, wearing a Guy Fawkes mask, which gained popularity from the 2006 film V for vendetta. A search of his vehicle uncovered a 9mm pistol. That's when officers took him into custody. Jeffrey's story shifted multiple times during his interrogation. At first, he claimed he was present during the murders, but didn't know who the killer was. He had only witnessed it happen. Then he changed his story, saying he had driven the murderer to the scene. Later, he alleged that someone had forced him to kill the couple. Finally, after a series of contradictions, he admitted to killing Carter and Natalie himself, the murders only taking 3 weeks after Jeffrey turned 20.
That's you running away the first time, after you shot them, running away.
At other times, he seemed to talk about a voice in his head that told him to do it.
Because the bad guy would have gotten you. That's the story that we're going with. The invisible bad guy that looks just like you. Give me a break. Give me a break.
From the moment of his arrest, it was clear Jeffrey was struggling with mental health issues. Not only had he been acting erratically when police found him, but during questioning, he frequently switched to speaking in a British accent. Investigators also had no evidence linking him to Carter or Natalie before the night, suggesting this was a completely random act of violence. It was clear that Jeffrey was still under some type of psychosis, even allegedly talking to people who were not in the room. Eventually, the horrifying details of that night would come to light. The terror both teens endured before their lives were stolen in an instant, allegedly at the hands of a 20-year-old stranger. Jeffrey told psychiatrists and detectives that he had been hearing voices in the days leading up to the murders. He admitted to spotting Carter and Natalie in the shopping center parking lot and secretly following them as they drove behind the Publix. At first, he claimed he was simply curious about why they were there so late. He watched as Carter climbed into the back seat of Natalie's car, initially observing them from behind an electrical box. But curiosity quickly turned into something darker. Jeffrey allegedly climbed onto the roof of the grocery store to continue watching the couple. What began as voyeurism suddenly escalated. Something inside him switched. His motive shifted from watching to confronting. The accused killer then allegedly approached the couple while they were in Natalie's car, pointing a gun at them and forcing them out of the vehicle. Jeffrey claimed he felt intimidated by Carter's size, so he immediately shot him in the head. Detectives say this is when Jeffrey turned his attention to Natalie, who was partially clothed. He forced her to remove the rest of her clothing, admitted to spanking her, and claimed to have sexually assaulted her, though the autopsy report found no evidence of sexual trauma. Then, in a final act of brutality, he shot her in the head as well. He then stole jumper cables before fleeing the scene. Jeffrey was taken to the Roswell Detention Center before being transferred to the Fulton County Jail. He was charged with more than a dozen criminal counts, including malice and felony murder, aggravated assault, sexual battery, and kidnapping. Jeffrey had a deeply troubled upbringing. Not only was he allegedly bullied throughout his life by peers, but he also reportedly endured mental and physical abuse from his mother and other family members. His grandparents were the only ones he could fully lean on. People who knew Jeffrey claimed they witnessed his mother beating him and calling him names. Raised by his grandparents after his mother was deemed unfit due to drug addiction, admitting to using drugs before, during, and after her pregnancy, Jeffrey struggled with severe behavioral issues from a young age. He had trouble in school, difficulty sleeping, and claimed to hear voices, but his family dismissed these as nothing but misbehavior, punishing him instead of seeking treatment. It wasn't until he officially moved in with his grandparents that they sought psychiatric help for him. Though Jeffrey eventually began receiving treatment and medical intervention for schizophrenia, extreme paranoia, PTSD, and learning disabilities, doctors warned his grandparents that years of abuse and neglect, especially medical neglect, had caused long-term damage. They emphasized that his recovery would be a difficult, ongoing process with lasting effects. Even those who cared for Jeffrey the most eventually found his behavior too much to handle. His grandparents, fearful of his escalating instability, ordered him to move out by August 2016. Records show they had previously reported him to the police for stealing knives and guns from their safe and making threats to harm others. Though he had no prior convictions, police had been called to his home 8 times since 2010. One report accused him of stealing a gun, while another described neighbors seeing him swinging a sword and throwing knives in the front yard. Jeffrey had a reputation at multiple schools for allegedly selling drugs and was eventually enrolled in the Alternative Youth Academy in Roswell. He worked at a local Michael's craft store in Alpharetta, Georgia, and frequently spent time at the Waffle House and an Army-Navy store. Just a few months before the murders, he had earned his GED. A friend recalled that Jeffrey was always dressed in all black, often wearing camouflage pants. Once the friend jokingly told him He looked like Dylan Keebold, one of the Columbine shooters. The two had grown up together and were in Boy Scouts during elementary school. Perhaps influenced by his time in the Scouts, Jeffrey had a strong fascination with knives and guns. He allegedly expressed interest in joining the National Guard, though nothing ever came of it. However, he did attend a military boot camp. Another classmate described Jeffrey as intelligent, but a definite loner, someone who immediately gave off an unsettling vibe. During his pretrial, Jeffrey's former doctor testified that he had treated him for years and observed symptoms of paranoia, auditory hallucinations, depression, attention difficulties, and insomnia. While diagnosing him was challenging, the doctor believed Jeffrey fell on the autism spectrum and exhibited schizophrenic tendencies, with a previous diagnosis of Asperger's disorder. In the days leading up to the murder, he had been taking medication for psychosis, depression, and anxiety. Just a day after the horrific crime, Jeffrey was posting selfies on his personal Instagram account, which contained months of unsettling images. One post from Tuesday, the day after Carter and Natalie's death, shows Jeffrey at a pool with the caption, "Swimming is one thing that holds me down." Another post from the same day is a black and gray image of Hazelwood with a cryptic message, "Always remember that you are absolutely unique, one of a kind, just like all the others." The account is filled with chilling quotes, including, "Eventually the most kind-hearted person will turn cold. That's when you know they've been pushed too far." There are also posts that seem to reflect inner turmoil, such as one that reads, "Why the f should I live? All I do is hurt everybody, even the one I love more than my own life. And I swore I'd never hurt. There's no one left." Detectives even found writings that Jeffrey wrote expressing his desire to become an assassin. Marcia Hazelwood, Jeffrey's grandmother, spoke to a local TV station, sharing that she and Walter had done their best to raise Jeffrey. Despite everything, she said they still loved him and had visited with him while he was in the Fulton County Jail. Police later revealed that the gun Jeffrey used in the murders had been stolen from his grandparents. At his first court appearance, he appeared extremely disheveled, shaking uncontrollably at times, visibly twitching his head, and even seemed to pet an imaginary animal. He also wore a wedding band despite not being married. During a status hearing, Jeffrey's psychologist testified that he had been treating him at Central State Hospital in Milledgeville for the past 3 months after his transfer from Fulton County Jail. The psychologist stated that when Jeffrey arrived at the hospital in February 2017, he was incoherent, hearing voices, and struggled to form sentences. However, after being prescribed new medications, he became more coherent, able to hold conversations, and understood the court proceedings. The psychologist concluded that Jeffrey would be competent to stand trial as long as he remained on medication. At this hearing, Jeffrey appeared noticeably different from his first court appearance, where he looked gaunt and disheveled. His once long hair was now cropped short, and he wore a gray suit as he sat in the courtroom. Though he spoke little, he acknowledged the prosecutor, confirmed he understood the charges and potential sentence, and stated that he had taken his medication that morning. Fulton County Superior Court Judge Sean Ellen LaGrua ruled that Jeffrey was competent to stand trial based on the clinical psychologist's report. Later that same month, the man accused of killing Carter and Natalie behind a supermarket pled guilty but mentally ill to murder charges. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole. The state will continue treating him for his mental illness, and he will remain under psychiatric care. Before sentencing, Jeffrey's attorney said the killer was deeply sorry for his actions. He's very remorseful for what happened. He was off his meds when this happened, and he was having hallucinations, audio and visual. He's very remorseful. Then, in a bizarre twist, nearly a year after the brutal murders, Jeffrey allegedly posted selfies from inside Baldwin State Prison. That's right, from prison on Instagram. The Gwinnett Department of Corrections confirmed the post appeared on Instagram stories one Thursday morning in August 2017, meaning it would vanish after 24 hours. But here's where it gets even stranger. Local journalists found it. Investigators? Not so much. When reporters reached out to the Department of Corrections for answers, officials claimed they couldn't locate the post. "We did not find any posts, but our investigations team has been alerted." So a convicted murderer locked away in a maximum security prison managed to slip a selfie onto social media, and the people paid to keep an eye on him had no clue. Throughout the trial and sentencing, Carter and Natalie's parents expressed deep gratitude for the swift work of the Roswell Police Department and investigators. Their relentless pursuit of justice ensured the person responsible was held accountable. In 2018, Suzanne and Tad Henderson, Natalie's parents, stood before Roswell Mayor Lori Henry and the City Council to present the Roswell Police Department with a $25,000 donation. It was both a heartfelt thank you for their relentless pursuit of justice for the slain teens and a commitment to supporting the department's continued extraordinary work. Today, a plaque hangs in the department's forensic science lab, a quiet but permanent reminder of the lives lost, in memory of Natalie Henderson and Carter Davis. When the innocent cannot cry out for justice, it is our duty to do so for them. Carter's parents announced the creation of the Carter Davis Memorial Foundation in honor of their son, who was murdered the day before his senior year, a milestone that was stolen in an instant. The foundation is dedicated to the sport Carter loved most, lacrosse. Through its efforts, it has provided scholarships to athletes at Carter's high school and donated funds to the Black Hills Lacrosse Organization, which supports Native American lacrosse programs across South Dakota, an initiative deeply meaningful to the Davis family. Nichole Davis has since found solace in the Warrior Mom community, a support group of bereaved mothers in the Atlanta area who have all endured the unimaginable loss of a child. Through a friend, she connected with this small but powerful circle of women who understand the depths of grief in a way few others can. Today, they lean on one another, navigate to ever-changing stages of grief, and share their stories with the local community, learning not just to survive, but to keep moving forward. Nichole has even become a voice for healing, co-hosting the Warrior Mom podcast, where she and another mother guide listeners through the raw realities of grief, sharing stories of their beloved children, the trauma they've endured, and the small victories that help them rise each day. Determined to help others find light in darkness, the Warrior Moms collaborated on a book, Grieve Like a Mother, Survive Like a Warrior, set for release later this year. Through its pages, they hope to provide comfort, solidarity, and a roadmap for those navigating the loss of a child. For Nichole, grief and joy are not opposites. They coexist. She calls it living in the and in honoring both sorrow and happiness, heartache and hope, she has embraced her own personal mantra, bravely say yes. More and more people are hearing Carter and Natalie's story thanks to the latest season of American Idol. Season 23, which premiered in March 2025, featured one of the show's most heartbreaking episodes, one that ensured their legacy would never be forgotten. Nichole Davis, an English teacher at the Lovett School in Atlanta, has always believed in the small, unexplainable signs that Carter sends her. One of those signs, she says, came through a former student, Slater Nally. At a writing retreat, Nichole had poured her grief into a poem for Carter. She later reached out to Slater, a singer-songwriter, asking for advice on turning her words into a song. Slater took a photo of the poem, and 2 weeks later, he surprised her, not just with lyrics, but with a fully composed song. He even brought his guitar to school and played it for Nichole's class. It was the most magical thing I had ever heard, Nichole recalled. The music drifted through the hallways, drawing in students from other classrooms. We went on this classroom tour of him singing this song, and me sitting there listening to it and crying. The song's opening lyric is, "Your laugh was like a river running home." Later, it evokes the hawks that bring Nichole comfort. "Somewhere past the sky, I can feel you dancing in the air. Every single time I see a bird fly by, I'm reminded you're answering my prayers." Slater titled the song Traces of You, with lines like, "I'd give anything for love to be enough to make it true. As the memories come racing into view, these traces of you." It became a love letter to Carter's memory. Not long after, American Idol talent scouts discovered Slater and invited him to audition. When he stepped in front of Lionel Richie, Luke Bryan, and Carrie Underwood, he chose Traces of You as his audition piece. As he sang, "There wasn't a dry eye in the room." All three judges were in tears. Nichole sat nearby, overcome with emotion. After the final note, Carrie Underwood turned to her and said, "Even though this was about your son, every single person that hears that can fill in that memory with somebody." Slater walked away with 3 yeses, a golden ticket to Hollywood, and a moment that felt almost destined. But for Nichole, the true gift was something deeper, knowing that Carter was there with her, proud of his mother, proud of Slater, proud that his story, nearly a decade after his tragic ending, was still being told. Grief never truly gets easier, but as Carter and Natalie's story reaches more hearts, Nichole finds more comfort in the unexpected moments, the quiet, unexplainable signs that remind her he's never really gone. Nichole says, "You look for the hawks and the butterflies."
To have this gift, I don't know, it's like a little piece of Carter gets to live on in song.
Oh, man.
As these days and years pass, not one goes by without remembering who Natalie and Carter were, or wondering who they would have become. Grief is cruel in any form, But there's something especially heartbreaking about losing two kids just as they were on the brink of adulthood, right when their world was about to change. It's impossible to find comfort in that. But one thing is clear. Their legacy lives on. What started as a tragedy in Georgia has now reached people across the country, even the world, ensuring that Carter and Natalie did not die in vain. Too many stories on this channel share the same haunting truth. People simply being in the wrong place at the wrong time. But that's the thing. None of us ever know we're in the wrong place until it's too late. Life is unpredictable like that. One moment, Natalie and Carter were just being normal teens, having fun, being young, living in the moment. They weren't doing anything reckless, nothing malicious or dangerous, just existing. But what if they had made a different choice that night? What if they left just a few minutes earlier? What if they never met up at all? What if Jeffrey had received proper medical intervention? Well, sadly, we'll never know, because in a moment, they crossed paths with the wrong person, a person who, in an instant, lost control and did the unforgivable. 3 families were destroyed that night. 2 children never came home, and one, forever lost to their own darkness, will spend the rest of their life in prison. A community once seen as picture perfect is now scarred, its sense of safety shattered, its wounds permanent. When something this horrific happens, no one is untouched. Fear lingers. Life feels different, but life doesn't stop. No matter how grotesque the crime, no matter how the lives were lost, the world keeps turning. This has been Joshua John with Behind the Headlines, and until next time, stay safe.